Throughout history, photographs have captured moments of change. Pella has had its city's images painted, photographed, and recorded since the first sod houses were built. Follow the journey of photographs with Pella collector John Vrome.
I began collecting old photos and postcards of Pella many years ago. And through the years, I've collected approximately 300. Our very first photo shows an art rendering of Pella in its early days by a local artist called Mr. Nolan. He did this rendering after they had arrived about 2 years. You can always notice in the center a large building, which is the Schulte home. Like was mentioned, the Schulte house was built at the time of them coming to Pella. As the other people were building cabins and grass huts and dugouts, Domini Schulte was building the mansion for Maria. The mansion was built within a year and is a very large structure. The backyard garden reaches all the way north for a couple blocks. Years later, after Domini Schulte died, Maria remarried and she married Robert Beard. Robert Beard was a photographer. We have a couple photos taken in about 1870 of the city square. Before anyone else were able to have cameras in their homes, or the average person having a basic camera, he was taking pictures by producing his own film. Down the block from the city square to the south was a fire station. All of the original businesses around the square and in town were made of wood because they could be constructed very quickly, but they were gradually replaced by brick. The city had 16 wells throughout the community, which were used for fire protection. The fire crew operated under a system called the bucket brigade. So they would use the bucket brigade system to put out fires from these various wells. This was very unsuccessful. By the time the fire had ignited, it was usually too late to put out the fires. But in 1882, they built a modern, up-to-date, at that time, firehouse. This firehouse today has been restored and can be visited by tourists. Down the street is the bank. You will see some pictures of different eras of time. And you will notice on the top of one of the pictures is an advertising sign. It says Kuiper, which means a lumber yard, and it has advertising across the top of it in Dutch. And on that corner, you will see the popcorn stand. This popcorn stand was there for many years. It was replaced in later years by another old popcorn stand, which now both are obsolete. Down the street is the livery. People would come to town to do their business, and they would bring their horse and buggy over, and they would put their horse into the livery. In modern day, we would call it our parking lot. We would go to our parking lot, park our car, and do our business. The only difference is their horses had to be fed and watered. One of the popular things to do were, if you were a young man and you wanted to take your special girl for a ride, you would rent a buggy at the livery and to give her a ride into the country. And there was the shuttle. The shuttle was used to transport people back and forth from the railroad depot. So the shuttle takes us to the railroad depot in the south part of town. In 1866, the railroad was extended from Eddyville to Pella. Since this was the end of the railroad line, people would come down by horse and buggy from Des Moines, catch the train so they could go to Chicago. You will see people sitting on the roof and a great crowd gathering because this was a train coming through with soldiers going to be trained for the Spanish-American War in 1898. The depot was later moved down the tracks to the west a couple blocks, and it was then made out of brick. So the brick constructed railroad is still standing, restored, and is a museum today.
As you stroll throughout our town, please take pictures. We encourage you to be a part of documenting our beautiful city.